Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's session on connectivity. I just want to say thank you all for joining me today. And as you just heard my full name, I'll quickly introduce myself. So I work with Valour Consultancy here in London. We are a provider of... Oh, sorry. Yeah. Oh. My flow. Okay. Specializing in market research and aviation. So one of our sort of specialist areas is connectivity, and I've done a little bit of work on that myself. So I'm really excited to dive into that with you all today, and with our fabulous panelists. But first, I'll just go over the sort of agenda for the session. So we'll be sort of focusing on setting the scene or the landscape of connectivity right now and kind of having a look at how it might change in the future. So there have been so many changes in the last few years. One of the first kind of from the passenger side is that connectivity is now a need and not so much a want. And so we're seeing a range of singular aircraft owner-operators also adopting connectivity. We've also seen some new entrants. So low Earth orbit or LEO solutions have recently sort of entered the scene, namely Starlink and also OneWeb. And obviously they have these really super fast speeds and low latency and other really sexy stuff like that. So we'll be touching on that, as well as some of the maybe overlooked kind of aspects of connectivity like hardware maintenance and future-proofing. So as I said, here are our panelists today who will be sort of discussing that with me. So if we can maybe go down the line and you can introduce yourselves, that would be fabulous, starting with Christian.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Christian. My name Christian Schusser from Q.C.M. I'm the CEO and head of design of our design organization, our EASA Part 21 design organization. Just as an explanation, what is an EASA Part 21 design organization? Is the company who is responsible to pimp your ride. We engineer and certify all changes and mods on the large aircraft, small aircraft, etc. And our company has focused especially on avionics modifications, cabin safety modifications, and structural modifications.
Good afternoon. My name's Dave Falberg. I have the pleasure of running the international sales team outside of the US for Gogo. Gogo are a service provider providing a raft of different solutions. When Christian is pimping your ride with connectivity, then he calls us, hopefully calls us and works with us in terms of providing the connectivity that goes on board the aircraft. Everything that we provide is basically put together from a customer-centric view, so really just trying to maximize experience for the customer. And I think that feeds into this conversation that we're having here today.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jim Huntoon, and I'm with Viasat. Used to be a good teammate of this guy sitting to my left, and it's a pleasure to be here with you today, talk about connectivity in the ever-changing world. All of us can't live with it, can't live without it. It's kind of one of those sayings, and the engines can fall off the airplane as long as we have connectivity all the way down to the ground, right? So all of us in this space have been watching it evolve, and I've been fortunate about the last 15 years of my career to be in the connectivity space, both with Gogo, Satcom Direct, 7 years with Viasat, so I've got a pretty good head, I'll say, about where this is going, where we're at today, and I look forward to the conversation.
Good afternoon. So I'm Paul, in charge of business development in Airbus Corporate Jet. So mostly leading new services on the market and including connectivity, which is a major topic for our customer today.
Cool. Thanks, guys. So as you can see, loads of different perspectives to get, so I'll get straight into it. I thought we could start by maybe looking at the sort of different solutions that are on the market today, sort of specifically in the GEO and LEO space and also sort of multi-orbit as well. Maybe some of the strengths and limitations based on different passenger profiles, different aircraft types, and that kind of thing. So maybe, Jim, we could start with you if you wanted to discuss GEO, LEO, and multi-orbit.
Yeah, happy to tackle that, and I think we can hit it from two perspectives. We can hit it from the manufacturer side, from a connectivity end, and what we do in a GEO space. We can probably hit it from the airframe side and what they're looking at and your passenger expectations. and then from a service side and install as well. So from a Viasat perspective, about a 40-year-old company that's been in connectivity for that period of time. All we do is connectivity. Goal is not to take you to Mars. Our goal is to give you great connectivity, consistent reliability, the things we hear from your customers and the things we hear from you in the audience that your passengers expect. Wherever I'm flying, we want to be connected. We want to have a seamless user experience. We don't necessarily care that we're connected to a GEO or a LEO. Those are terms that we use in our space, or maybe somebody trying to sell you a system will use. For us at Viasat, it's about delivering that experience. And again, we're a GEO company, if you will, when you look at our network and that. But at the same time, we're going to partner with other people and have that multi-orbit component, because the bottom line is the user experience and what we're providing, whether it's on a VVIP jet, whether it's in the commercial aerospace, whether it's on a business jet. And our partners up here, like I said, when we look at the space, it's evolving and changing pretty quickly. And certainly, I'll use the spare chair here beside us could be the provider that doesn't show up to talk about connectivity. That's also part of this conversation. David?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously we share a lot of the same views with Viasat and our partners in terms of this is really about providing, as I mentioned before, the customer experience. So really, the end result or the technology used to deliver the end result should be irrelevant for our end customers. And we have the challenge at the moment of taking a rapidly changing and evolving landscape of satellite communication solutions, demystifying that and helping our customers and our partners make the right decisions in terms of the solutions that they provide. Part of our portfolio is based on ATG, which is air to ground, predominantly in the US. Part of our portfolio is based on GEO solutions, which are, satellite constellations made up of far fewer satellites, which are located far further away than the LEO satellites, but provide a ton of capacity through to our customers, and really have been the standard, I would say, for the last 10 years in terms of high-speed throughput. And then we have LEO solutions, which are very much the new wave of technology in terms of its feasibility as a high-speed data solution. So what we try and do is not really work at it from this is where the strength is of this particular type of solution, whether that's GEO, LEO, ATG, or all, or none. It's really to work from a customer-in perspective where we say, okay, what are you trying to achieve? Because right now we've got an opportunity with a lot of these airframes that before didn't have the opportunity to look at these types of satellite communication solutions for their aircraft. Now the way technology is evolving means that we can have some different conversations about that and open up new avenues of opportunity for our customers to use our services. So it's a really exciting time. I think there are strengths and weaknesses to all of the different solutions, but those strengths and weaknesses really depend on the customer and their perspective and what they're looking for.
Yeah, definitely. And Paul, maybe you could speak to the VVIP segment and what kinds of requests you're having from customers or your product mix specifically at Airbus.
Yeah, but I think the dynamic of the connectivity of business aviation today is great. As an OEM, we see that as a great opportunity to deliver an experience to our passengers that was simply not possible before. So, of course, from our perspective, we see the LEO coming in, great speed, great latency, even it's really cost effective, but it's new development. So it means new STC, it's come at a risk. Then you have the GEO, of course, was the standard for the past 15, 10 years, I don't know. So it's not new developments, it's very well known, stable. And then the last thing, you can actually combine both, so LEO plus GEO. Of course, you bring the best of the two worlds, but it comes at a cost, of course.
Yeah, definitely. And Christian, could you maybe discuss that from the perspective of maybe the enabling hardware and some trends you're seeing in that?
Enabling hardware. Well, we as an STC house are very dependent on you guys. So what do you develop? And at the end of the day as well, what's the customer need? Important is sometimes, okay, does the customer actually know what he wants? We are often confronted with a client having a small aircraft wants high-speed connectivity, and just a few years ago we couldn't provide that to him. Today, at the end of the, we can provide any kind of solution for the customer. Important is what the customer is, what is his expectation. Now, especially when it comes to costs, there the expectations vary.
Yeah.
Some want everything for free, and some want to invest. So what usually happens is if they hear the costs like 5 years ago, monthly costs, subscription costs, they would fall off the chair every time and say, no, I'm not going for that. So I'm going for some SBB or Iridium, any other solutions. Today, I must say the costs are getting more and more, calculatable for the customer, manageable. And yeah, for us then is as well very important hardware, where do you install it in your aircraft? So in the majority of cases, you have an aircraft which is type certificated, you have a configuration which is approved. Now we come in and say, okay, please Gogo, give us your hardware, and we need to install it somewhere. The smaller the aircraft, the more challenging it's going to get.
Yeah.
So we depend as well on you guys as well to tell us, to give us options on less hardware. The less hardware, the easier it is for us to certify and to install, and the less downtime you have on your aircraft, because you have to dismantle less on your aircraft, you have to modify less, the galley gets saved for space. So there's a lot of adjectives coming from vendors with the hardware, space in aircraft, etc., etc.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And it kind of ties on to sort of my next question, which was looking at, it is a big investment. There is a level of risk with some of these new technologies. Obviously, you're involved with the testing and certification and stuff like that. Could you maybe give like a bit of an outline of that process and, how you are minimizing downtime and stuff like that alongside, making sure things are effective and safe?
So we just finished our last STC on the Global, the Galileo HDX, which was quite successful. The certification process took a little bit longer as expected. But this is now the fifth connectivity, sixth connectivity system we have certified. Our first connectivity system was the Luxstream, the Ku-band Luxstream. Then we went on to different ones, and also the Certus from Collins. We did a few on different aircraft. With the HDX antenna, the level was risen because we had additional flight testing campaign to do. So from start point to the end point, it took net, I would say, like 12 to 16 weeks on certification.
Yeah.
To minimize the ground time of the aircraft, obviously, you do a lot of pre-engineering, a lot of pre-planning, pre-investigations, and because every customer, you would not believe it, obviously wants to fly the aircraft. When he's flying the aircraft, he's earning money. If the aircraft is down, he's not earning any money. So we need to keep it as low as possible, the downtime. And there's nothing worse than having an aircraft tested, everything is working on the aircraft. You have finalized the flight test results, and then you are waiting for an EASA approval. So it works like this. EASA is the governing body for major STCs to have them approved. We are dependent on them putting the stamp on the certificate. So the last time it took from end of flight test analysis to receiving of the STC 2 weeks. So in that 2 weeks, we had lots of customer calls saying, I want to fly the aircraft.
Tough call.
Tough calls, yeah. So to minimize the downtime, you do your utmost, but for prototype aircraft, especially for prototype aircraft, the more you do engineering pre-planning, the less downtime you have.
Yeah, okay, definitely. And I guess a trend that I saw during my research as well was sort of simplifying and streamlining hardware and also working towards future-proofing some of the new antennas that are coming out. So obviously with some of the market consolidation and being able to sort of leverage two distinct networks, as well as just the rapid pace that everything's changing, it's obviously really important to bear in mind, you know, your sort of roadmap for these solutions as well. So maybe, Jim, we could start with you. Obviously, we have Viasat and Inmarsat sort of integrating. Do you want to speak a bit, you know, as to how that sort of evolved on your side?
Yeah, and so I should have mentioned it, you know, I said Jim Huntoon, Viasat. We purchased Inmarsat about 3 years ago. So that full integration, great British company that's now part of Viasat, London office here as well. But the consolidation really, and when I mentioned I worked with my teammate here to my left at Satcom Direct, now Gogo, as he's not referring to Satcom Direct, it's all Gogo, which I can respect. The consolidation in our industry is really happening at a rapid pace. We talked a little bit about pricing and models and that, and competition is driving end users to make decisions as well, whether that's a flyaway cost or monthly cost. I tie it back to, again, that user service, but the competition is changing. So the consolidation as a whole, when you look at the industry, is likely to continue to happen. Companies like ours, whether we partner with a company like theirs for a multi-orbit approach, whether we go look at our own, it's, you know, as a GEO company, there's advantages to a GEO network, there's advantages to a LEO network, there's advantages to an ATG network, right? Back to that. But the consolidation really is likely to continue in this space, especially when it costs billions of dollars for GEO satellites. When you think about every week, I live in Central Florida, I can watch a Falcon 9 go up every single day almost with rockets on it for Starlink, for OneWeb, their network, and for others. So the cost to be in this market is significant as well, and that's why really working together, consolidating is changing it. Our Inmarsat tie to this, when you mentioned Swift Broadband, we love you if you're still using Swift Broadband. Please continue to use that. But the cost when you look at a connectivity piece, and even on a VVIP aircraft, is actually coming down. You know, that cost per megabyte, that user experience is getting better. Technology is giving an overall user experience that's better than it's ever been, more consistent throughout the world at a lower cost, and the consolidation in the industry is part of that process as well.
Yeah.
No, 100%. I mean, with the development that we've been undertaking more recently around the antennas, there has definitely been a large part of the view based on the rapid changing landscape that we need, or that is coming. And so what we decided as part of that development effort was to make sure that whatever was being invested in today was simple to install. So we reduced the number of LRUs in the units. We made common form wiring as far as we can do. We just tried to reduce downtime as much as possible, reduce the intrusive nature of the install of the equipment as much as we can. All of this is variable, right, depending on what's going on in the aircraft, but that was the intent when we're putting that together. So on the plain simple side, which are a tail mount antenna series, they effectively are made up of 2 LRUs. And that means that, I guess just to take a step back a second, one of the biggest issues that we get from our customers is, what do I invest in now? Because we know that technology is moving at such a rate. Is that going to be a good investment 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 days down the line? There's only so far that we can see. But what we took the view with the design philosophy is that, okay, you're installing today. Let's say that we're using Network X, so that I'm not being unfair to any networks or anything like that. But we're using Network X at the moment. But Network Y all of a sudden has some really desirable plans. Their coverage fits our mission better. Rather than rip and replace a whole system, the philosophy was designed so that you could replace modules of that or parts of that to be able to achieve the same aim. So really trying to make sure that the initial investment is protected. And we've tried to take the same philosophy with the Galileo portfolio as well. So in the LEO world, if and when, I suppose it's more when than if, there are additional entrants into the market and there are additional solutions, is trying to make it so that the investment that's put in today is not ripped out and thrown into the hangar space at the side of the aircraft, that we're actually able to reuse and reaccommodate, modem changes instead of whole antenna changes, reuse wiring, all of the things that, mount up when we're looking at these types of changes. So I guess from our perspective now, particularly in the antenna space, is making sure that we're considerate from a business aviation standpoint, that size, weight, all of the things which are important to smaller aircraft are adhered to. We have modularity in the system to cope with future advancements as they come along. And hopefully, by proxy of all of this, our customers, I'm not saying it's ever going to be an easy decision, it's an investment at the end of the day, and there is a certain amount of, which way do I go? But we're really trying to take as much risk out of that decision for our customers as possible so they can see a clear path forward.
And now, just to add something to this, just a good way to navigate into all this landscape is complexity. I think the key is partnership. I mean, as the OEM, we want to make sure our operators are happy, and to do so, we do a lot of partnerships. I mean, we have done it we are co-developing STC with an external companies to make sure we can have an STC actually for the HDX of Gogo. We are of course partnering with the connectivity provider, I mean Viasat and Gogo. And at the end, for the embodiment, we need also to have a strong partnership with the MRO from our service center network, because they will do the embodiment on the aircraft, and it's kind of a bit of complexity to install the antenna at the right place and then to have all the cabin connectivity linked to it.
Just one thing I want to add on is equipment manufacturers really need to think in the future on the size of the antenna. We can't get any bigger anymore. It's already with the HDX on the global, installing that antenna, it had such a large effect on all other antennas installed. In the second aircraft we are going to do now, we actually need to relocate one antenna to not have the aerodynamic effect on it, negative effect, so it possibly gets ripped off at some point in the future. So these antennas, especially the form of the antennas, need to be thought of, especially the HDX, like this block which we have. It was like okay, how do we certify this in the beginning? Tests and flight tests showed it was really not affecting that in a bad way. Just everything behind it was affected. So for future, the antennas need to be maybe a little bit smaller.
Yeah. No, appreciate the feedback. And of course, everything that we do moving forward is evolutionary, and it's, we're doing all that we can with the technology available to us and the information we have and the partnerships that we have to make sure they're as effective as possible. So absolutely, we take on board that type of feedback and feed that into the development chain.
Yeah, definitely. And then that's a really nice segue for my next question. We're shifting slightly away from the actual solution and more towards the passenger. But again, with the theme of sort of like cohesion, managing expectations and sort of working together. Obviously, people have that need to be connected, and like people have touched on before, people with aircraft that really can't fit, the hardware that they need, want to be able to stream video and things like that. So, what are you kind of hearing from customers, and what is sort of possible from your perspective, and how do you balance that and kind of guide, keep your customer happy and guide them towards making, I suppose, the right choice for not just their needs, but their aircraft, and whatever size that is or whatever region that they're in, Paul, you can start with that.
Yeah, I think as the aircraft OEM, that's definitely our role, to be a kind of advisor of partner toward our customer, to listen to them and to guide them towards the best technology for their needs. And to do so, we are looking at a few factors. Of course, the customer profile. Is it a government? Is it a private? Is it a charter? It's definitely not the same connectivity usage in the aircraft. We need to have a look at the route, where they're flying to. We need also, of course, to look at the total cost of ownership, not only the upfront investment for the installation, but also the monthly fees that they will have to pay. And last but not least, but very important for an OEM, it's the aircraft configuration, the embodiment feasibility. Where can we install the antenna on the fuselage? Is there any heavy check plan in the next few months that will drive a very strong lead time constraint? So basically, we need to take all of this analysis into consideration. And then, as mentioned, we will leverage our partnerships with the connectivity provider, the MROs, and trying to find the best solution at the end for their needs. Really, the point is do not be driven by technology, be driven by your needs, and then we will find the right technology.
I'll kick in a little bit on that user experience. We spent a lot of time talking about user experience, and like I say, kind of we're at a place in time where we haven't been in the last 5 years. Technology has come across where most systems can deliver a pretty consistent user experience. We invest, and I kind of look at this twofold. I just got news today as I came up here that Viasat F2, one of our satellites, is going to be launched in October to expand capacity in that Viasat network. That user experience, and at the end of the story, everybody that's sitting on this panel, or you in the audience, the passengers in the back want to get on that aircraft and have an experience like their house, their office, when they're traveling, right? They don't, again, necessarily care, or they don't understand maybe what they're connected to, but we look at it from a Viasat perspective, investing in future satellites, increasing capacity, keeping up. Every time a new device comes out or an app, right, it requires more. It's not uncommon to have a VVIP aircraft or a large cabin Gulfstream, Bombardier, Dassault, et cetera, Embraer aircraft that have 40, 50, 60 connected devices on that network. So how do you keep up with that? Well, you improve performance on the network, you add satellite capacity, you increase the robustness and reliability of what you're doing. And that's kind of, like I said, the user experience. All of us on this hear it from customers all the time. As I started my statement, the engines can fall off the aircraft, but the connectivity better work, right? So.
Yeah, I second all of that. There's not really much to add. I think it's, when we're talking to customers, it's the 4 Cs. And they all mean different things to each customer, but they all have the 4 Cs, right? They have consistency, is there capacity, what's the coverage, and what are the costs, whether that's for installation or ongoing ownership. And there is no right answer to those questions, but they're the key considerations that each customer really tends to drive with. And so as long as we're able to be flexible enough, and we start from a customer in perspective, as Paul stated, you know, we'll listen first and we drive from that. Our job really is to curate the ability to be able to support. Once we've listened, we don't go back with the same solution that we would do regardless of your answer. So we need to be able to offer that level of agnostic flexibility. However, the aim really from a customer perspective is if we do that and we're transparent with capabilities, we offer the training. So part of what we do, which is when an aircraft is delivered following an upgrade, we'll offer something entry into service. So we'll take the cabin, the crew, the pilots through the capabilities of the system that they just installed. We'll make sure that they're fully aware of, the breaking point of that system. So they've got a real expectation as to how that should perform. That on its own demystifies what that system, good performance, looks like. And often the follow-ups from customers that are either disgruntled or unhappy about the way the system is performing is not necessarily because the system is not performing as it should. It's because their expectation is that the system should be performing in a different way. So I think that's on us as a service provider and with our partners to make sure that when we're having that conversation, if we're talking upgrades, we're setting expectations early. And every point along the way, we're working together to make sure that the customer is confident in the solution. So I think things like that really help out.
Yeah.
There's the end customer using the internet, and there's my customer, usually in between, which is the MRO. And the MRO has also some expectations next to the end customer. The MRO has the expectation, quick install, efficient install, low downtime, and less materials. Usually in combination with the planned downtime is the ideal way and time when you want to do the installation of a modification of the aircraft. And then there's an add-on still to the sizes of the antennas, the mods, etc. After each of these mods, the aircraft goes into a continuing airworthiness environment. This continuing airworthiness environment has an obligation where you need to maintain it on a certain interval. The larger the antenna, the shorter the interval is going to be, that the aircraft has to come back to the hangar and do another maintenance inspection to see, with the GVI, a general visual inspection maybe only, to see if that antenna is still fit and is still safe after the installation. So there's a few perspectives to add on, but my customers are maintenance organizations and the end customer.
Yeah, very true. And yeah, definitely there seems to be a lot of those changes to sort of deal with, as you say, for different types of customers. And there will be certainly more changes to come. So I think as we've sort of heard about, Kuiper and Telesat are both sort of due to launch before the end of the decade, and we'll be offering LEO Ka-band connectivity. Of course, there are new solutions sort of coming out all the time, or upgrades or network enhancements. So this next question kind of has two parts, but what do you it seems like definitely we're moving in a LEO direction, but obviously there are multi-network and multi-orbit sort of setups as well. What do you kind of see as the future, I guess, of connectivity? What way is that moving? And then after that, I'll sort of come to some advice that you're kind of giving to customers now about their potential upgrade path. But yeah, first, if you wanted to discuss where you see the industry kind of headed, maybe in terms of passenger expectations and also what you have coming out from networks and service providers.
Did you want me to?
Yes, go for it.
Yeah, sure. Well, I don't think it will come as any surprise that just general data usage, whether it's on an aircraft or generally, is just skyrocketing. I think the expectation that an aircraft is not only connected, that it's well connected, is growing. I think the argument or the discussion around what's better, LEO or GEO, and which is going to win, I think we're probably looking in the wrong direction with that conversation. I think there's a place for all. I think what we'll see is continued advancements in all of the different areas. I know that there's massive investment going on from our friends in Viasat in the network, and the performance and capacity that network provides to customers. It's in terms of customer need, I think it in pretty much every circumstance can deliver customer need. I think the same can be said of the LEO networks. And I think, as we progress, the customer's demand on increased bandwidth on board the aircraft is only going to feed into that. But I don't think there's going to be a wholesale change from the technologies that we're seeing on board the aircraft at the moment. There just may be more options available to customers. And what those options will bring is competition, and they'll bring innovation, and hopefully the end users will be benefiting from that. From our perspective, obviously, we need to make sure that we're positioning ourselves to ride that wave, where the new competition comes in, the advancements comes in with what we're developing today, and to continue to make your life as easy as possible moving forward, and your MRO partners' life as easy as possible. But I think just the general trend is, aircraft are going to become much more capable. There's thousands of data sets on board the aircraft, so the synchronization of the aircraft with ground ops and with everything that's going on around the aircraft is only going to improve. And I think that connectivity as an entertainment first or safety first service, and entertainment is when, as you say, if the engine's not working, we're still flying, right? But if the connectivity's down, we're not. I think that will become more and more prevalent. And I think that with the increase in airframes that have access to the new wave of technology, connectivity that's available to them, we're only going to see the number of aircraft utilising this increase. And I think that the opportunity for us to deliver, the unicorn of office in the sky or home internet in the sky really is upon us. And regardless of the aircraft that they're flying, they have that opportunity to take it.
One quick thing, as we talk about what's coming next and what have you. So the partners, whether it's Gogo or good partners at Honeywell and others, are investing as well in that hardware that's on the aircraft today for improvement so that you can get improved capacity, improved speed, improved user experience. When they're making that type of investment, when Honeywell is investing in the JX, their components as well, it shows you that we're invested with our partners, I'll say, and that's kind of one of the things in the future. As Starlink came into this industry, nobody really thought they would probably have the adoption rate or adaption as fast as they have. And quite honestly, it's good for us. It's good to have the competition. It makes the people, we look at Inmarsat and Viasat as being the leaders of this space. Gogo certainly in that space, air to ground had it. Well, Starlink's come in and made us better companies because we are having to adapt to a changing environment. We're having to look at pricing structure. We're having to put more capacity up. We're having to define why you should do business and say, yeah, we need to be with a partner that's going to be here for the next 40 years. It's not just here for a snapshot of time. And that involves working with all of our partners, as I mentioned, to make sure they're investing in the hardware that's on your airplane to future-proof it, just as we put satellites up that are backwards compatible with current hardware.
Sorry. And then I guess the sort of last part of this question as well, which maybe Paul you could begin with, was what advice you have for anyone who's, I suppose, looking to upgrade right now, whether they should sort of wait and see what happens with any of the new incoming solutions, or whether it's better to add to or rip out and replace. And yeah, any kind of final key takeaways that you think, the audience should know or really consider, at the end of this session.
Yeah, no, I think regardless of new innovation, new product or not, don't be driven by technology. I mean, I said it before, you listen to your customer or you listen to your own needs, you leverage partnerships, and then you deliver the best technologies, best innovation for your needs. That's all.
Yeah.
Options are good. I all the time have people ask me, Jim, take your Viasat hat off and just tell me, because you're my friend, about what we should look at for options. And all I'll say to you, whether it's a service provider, whether it's a hardware or a network, look at the options, and back to the point of what are your users trying to achieve in the back of the aircraft. We're getting to a point again where almost all of us can deliver a consistent level or user experience. So then it becomes more of a decision as well. Who do you want to do business with, right? Who's going to be here in 40 years? What service provider do you want to have? What partners do you look at in the industry and say, hey, at midnight on Christmas Eve or New Year's, who can I call that's going to pick up the phone and actually answer the phone and help us when the internet doesn't work? So I think it's becoming much more, again, back to what most of us have done this for a lifetime. It's relationship business. It's about trust, reliability, consistency. Well, that ties into the relationships that we have with you as customers and our MRO partners, our service partners, and our OEM partners as well.
Again, there's not really much to add. I think really is the relationships and everything which are going to make this succeed or fail in terms of your decisions on board the aircraft. It's more about the technology, more than about just the technology. I think, I don't know, key takeaways. This isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. There are so many variables from every angle, from the MRO standpoint, the installation, the onward ownership of the system, the service and support wrap that goes around it, and everything in between, that unfortunately, it's not usually a simple decision. But I think that choosing trusted partners which can lead you through that maze, whether hopefully it's us or whether it's another trusted partner that you have that can take you down that road, needs to be really forefront of those considerations to make sure that your investment is sound today, and that the installation and that the aftercare and the design of the full solution that's on board the aircraft is SDC'd, is appropriate, is reliable, is robust, and is going to be aviation grade, as is the requirement for these types of solutions.
What would you be speaking of when you say aviation grade? What are you referring to exactly?
I'm giving a hard
No
time.
comment.
Yeah.
No comment's the right answer.
few weeks ago, I gave a speech about connectivity to customers who wanted to be informed. And then I gave them the options, different costs, etc. And there was one client, customer, aircraft owner who said, I'm not investing 1 cent in my aircraft. That's all too expensive. I'm going to buy myself a Starlink Mini, put it in the glare shield, and it's going to work as well. So the first thing I explain to my customers is get an official, approved, certified system installed. Nothing on the dashboard, nothing somewhere hidden, has negative effects. That's why we pay a lot of money or invest a lot of money on certification in TSOs, etc., to have that system we're integrating safe and sound. And yeah, let's see if that particular customer is going to follow my path.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for that, guys. That literally brings us to time, but we might have a few minutes for a couple of questions, if anyone had any.
Thanks, guys. I just want to go a little bit back onto that disruptive element that you talked about, like just chucking something on the dashboard. I think that's certainly something that has to be considered, because at the moment the sort of installed fleet is still relatively small compared to, you know, the number of aircraft that are out there and the different sorts of aircraft that are coming. And you've got quite a lot of control with the STCs and the OEMs as aircraft get, you know, go on for longer, and you've got disruptive technologies like the ability to do that. You may well see people just bringing that on board themselves, passengers in the back, plugging, you know, putting it again certainly for LEOs, because, you know, you don't need the directional stuff for the GEO. How do you feel about that? And what's, you know, what is the real problem with that sort of disruption? How do you stay with the disruption as suppliers?
Well, more than explaining and what the results could be if you have interferences, non-certified interferences in your cabin, that's as far as I can go as a design organization to explain, okay, there can be interference, there can be, your primary navigation can be interfered. There's something which can happen which we don't know, which is not tested. That's why we do a lot of testing on the aircraft to have the system safe. That's the only thing we can do, is explain to the customer what is pros and cons of certified system and non-certified systems.
Yeah, I was going to say, there are some things that with the Mini specifically, you know, they know how fast you're going. You got to have to put it on an aviation plan. There's all kinds of things. And again, you know, anybody that's in here, if you're in a 135 or if you're in a charter environment, are you going to tell passengers, well, you can walk up and down the aisle anytime you want, whether we're taking off or landing? That? No, of course not. You give them safety instructions. There's reasons we do things in business aviation to help the industry stay safe. That's not saying disruptive technology is bad at all. It just means that strapping something on a glare shield, especially if you're a pilot or somebody, given the environment that we operate in, obviously is probably not the best thing. And I'm sure if there's any insurance people in here, they'd love to hear from the people that are doing that and have that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, that particular scenario is not a path we've chosen to follow. I think that there will be some adoption of those types of solutions, but really, I guess, we keep talking about best experience. So to ensure best experience, I think we need to be able to control as many elements of the connectivity loop as possible. And that includes the installation, that includes the positioning, that includes its integration into the onboard networks. It incorporates all of these different elements, and from a troubleshooting and a onward support basis. I mean, if our customer is flying around in a global or any private jet, they're going to be a discerning gentleman or lady who has high expectations around the services that they're providing. Our ability to provide that, or anybody's ability to provide that outside of the areas that we can control with the robust and validated solutions that we provide, becomes really difficult. And that, in terms of end user experience, is not something that we believe is sustainable right now. There may be a market for it in some areas, okay, But that's certainly not something that we believe is the way forward for our customers.
Any other questions? No, okay. Sorry, okay, perfect. Well, thank you all for joining us today, and you guys were great. Thank you so much to our panelists. So if everyone could join me. Amazing. Yeah.